Hello, 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 everybody. My name is Steve Ford, and welcome to your English lesson. Today, we're going to be talking about tips for studying for the TOEFL, and I have a great question to start us off from Armin. So let's go.
Hello, I want to apply to take a TOEFL exam, but I'm really afraid I don't have a great self-confidence to pass the exam. Please help me how to get high scores.
First off, Armin, I want to say thank you because it goes without saying that to admit that you are afraid takes a lot of courage. And I have a few tips here that hopefully will make you feel a little bit more relaxed. My first tip is you need to know the score that you need to gain entrance to get into a university here. So some universities, and I will post a link for this, some universities, they require that you get a high score. Now, what is the total score? The maximum score that you can get is 120. And there are 4 sections, so each section is worth 30 points, maximum. And Harvard and Yale, 2 Ivy League schools, those are 2 examples of a high score requirement where you need at least 100 to get in. For the MBA program, and I remember this because I was preparing a guy who was trying to get into the Harvard Business School program, that score that he needed was 110, and he needed 26 on the speaking. We'll talk about that in a bit. So you can see that in these 2 cases, the score requirement is quite high, especially because you need to get 26 on the speaking. And that's my next point. Not only do some universities require that you get a high score, some universities also, depending on the program, depending on if you need this, maybe not to get into university, but to practice your profession here in North America, they also need you to get a 26 on the speaking. Now, before you stress out about this, there is a long list of other universities in North America that have different range requirements. There are some universities that only need between 70 and 80, which is not so high. There are some universities that have a requirement of 80 to 90, which is a little higher, and then from 90 to 100, which goes higher. Second tip, how advanced does my English need to be? This is a question that I get a lot. How advanced does your English need to be? From my experience, most people think that it needs to be more advanced than what the TOEFL requires. So you don't need to be a native speaker. You don't need to be completely fluent, flawless, no mistakes. If you take a look at the TOEFL rubric, for the speaking, for the writing, even if you get a top score, some mistakes are allowed. So you can forget about that. You don't need to worry about that. However, you do need to be able to understand what is being said in the lectures, and there's lectures, there's listening. In the listening section, there's listening in the writing, there's listening in the speaking. So you need to be familiar with a wide range of topics, different kinds of vocabulary in different kinds of situations. That's important. But you don't need to speak exactly like a university professor. That's just not realistic. Okay, my next point is also very important. The TOEFL is like fast food. That's what I tell all my students. It's like fast food. So it's there, it's ready very quickly. And we know the TOEFL is quick. You only have 45 seconds for speaking in some parts and 60 seconds for speaking, 30 minutes for writing. That doesn't give you much time. 20 minutes for writing too. So I call it the fast food test. It's more of a methodical way of looking at your English, and you don't have to worry about the originality of your ideas. That's more like French cuisine, where you can see there's a lot of thinking behind that. No, you don't need to show that you're a deep thinker. And sometimes my students tell me they get a question on the TOEFL and they don't have any personal experience. Well, maybe you're just going to have to say something that isn't exactly true. You're making it up. You're becoming a storyteller. The last thing I want to say is that you can speak English right now. Maybe you can go to a bar and you can talk about your weekend. Like I went to the bar and I was hanging out with my friends. We got together and we were just chilling. But when you go to talk about something more specific in terms of context, so let's say you get a lecture on biology. Oh, biology. Yes, it's the pet peeve of all my students. It's the thing they love to hate. Unless you're a doctor or someone in that field, then it becomes more difficult for you to find the words you want to use. So that's why you need to practice. You need to become familiar with the material. Get some material. You can buy a book, CD-ROM. Nowadays, they have online practice tests. And you can that way become familiar with it. For the English that is used in general, you can get that from American TV series, American movies. There's so much available nowadays. My last message for you, and this is a very important message, not just for the TOEFL, but for your life. I've seen many quotes online for courage. What is courage? Courage for me is moving forward when you're afraid. Think about that. So courage isn't some brave lion walking through the forest. I'm afraid of no one. I'm the biggest in the forest. No. Courage is when you're afraid, you admit you're afraid, just like Armin did, but you keep going. And I want you to keep going. Don't give up. And I'm sure that you can do it. Well, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this video. A little bit of inspiration and a lot of tips based on my years of teaching experience. If you have a question, you can always contact me at the links below this video. And I hope to see you in our next TOEFL lesson. Bye for now. Courage is moving forward even when you're afraid. Courage is moving